gentleman named Brad P. And I kind of like watched his post, and he came in like, I'm going to start off asking him. He came in pretty strong, like pretty soon. As soon as he got in, he was already posting pretty spectacular field reports, and they were amazing field reports. And it was clear that the head of the community had already done some work himself and figured some of this stuff out. And obviously since then, he's got many, many, many other accomplishments. He just moved out to L.A. He's running his own business. Put out some good books, great books, and we'll talk about those as the call goes on and find out from the man himself. So, Brad P., thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Cool, man. So let me just start off by asking then, I just saw you kind of, let's start at the beginning. So let's back it up a little bit. So what we're going to do is start off just talking about a little bit about your sort of dating background, your experiences with women. For the first sort of post-pubescent years of your life, how'd you deal with women? Were you okay? Were you horrible? Were you scared? What was your background?
I was actually pretty horrible. And I shouldn't have been horrible, and that's kind of what was always upsetting to me. When I was a teenager in school, I was not a very social guy. I was definitely on the shy side and introverted, and I wanted to, get successful with the girls, obviously, but not having social skills, my way of attacking it was to sort of kind of become this overachiever guy. So, I got really good grades, I played sports, I was the captain of the basketball team, and I was just doing well at everything, and I thought that by doing that, I would become successful with women. And it didn't end up working because, women would kind of notice that, and some of them would even get interested in me occasionally, but without having the social skills to talk to them, and I just wasn't able to capitalize it. So I felt like I kind of looked. So despite
being the captain of the basketball team, you still weren't having any luck.
Yeah, I did not date one single girl in my high school. That
makes me feel better. Go ahead.
I wasn't going to the basketball parties. I was more like a basketball nerd, I would say. I was like in the gym 24/7, didn't talk to anybody except my coaches, because I kind of had to. I wasn't even a naturally athletically gifted guy. I was just working harder than all the other players, and that's how I became successful in athletics. I was a really, awkward kind of guy, but I just kind of found a way to teach myself to be coordinated by playing 24/7, which helped me a lot later because I kind of applied that same work ethic to meeting women, years and years later. But at the time, it was very frustrating to just not have any women in your life and just to be, feeling really lonely.
Right.
And I went to college at a school that was 70% women.
Where'd you go?
I went to Adelphi.
Oh, okay, cool. I did too. I tried that trick as well. It didn't work for me, but how did it?
It definitely helped a little bit. I was able to get a girlfriend there, and women were noticing me more just because they had no choice. But then once I got out of Adelphi, I moved to New York City. I was living in Queens, New York, and the game just got 10 times harder all at once I got out of school.
Right.
So I kind of found myself in a position where I had no clue how to meet women. I had a degree, I had a job, but New York women just really have a strong frame, and they're not the easiest to approach. And, I was just kind of out of luck for a while there,
Okay. And then what happened, or what did you start doing?
Well, I was kind of just trying to really leverage my peer groups and people I knew, and I could get a girlfriend occasionally. It was definitely a struggle, but I could. I was putting my mind to it and really focusing on it, so I could get a girlfriend once in a while. But a couple of years later, I think it was about when I was in New York, I had a few different jobs. I worked with the mentally handicapped. I worked with. I was a social worker for a while with at-risk urban teens, and so it just really helped me develop my social skill doing these things. So. About 5 years into that, I actually broke up with a girl who was really, that I was really into, and, I was really down about it, and something just kind of snapped, and I said to myself, I've always been good at everything, but I don't know how to be good at this. I don't know how to be good with women. It's just been like a lucky break here and there for like, the last 10 years of my life, So at that point, I decided to go out 7 days a week and try to meet women, and just approach, every day. And at the time, I actually had no awareness of the seduction community. I didn't actually find out about it until 2 years later, which is another interesting story that I'll get into. But I was just going out by trial and error and trying to figure out how to get women interested and trying everything. And I was trying to pick up stuff from my friends. I had a few friends who were pretty good with women, so I picked up a lot of things from them. But yeah, it was definitely a long road. It was.
What did you pick? What did you pick up from them? Because I remember in my frustrating AFC days, I would ask women for advice, and I would get the worst advice ever, which I would, of course, then go execute because I didn't understand it and have a, and it was just horrible. Because I remember women would say, I want to be treated like, no guy treats me like a gentleman. I want someone to pick me up and take me on a real date. And I remember my next date, I don't remember, I think it was a blind date or something. Like I picked her up, I brought her like a present and shit. Like, I took her on a real date, and it was just a fucking disaster. At the end, we were just so bored of each other. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I definitely had some moments like that. You know how I kind of went about it? I mean, it wasn't so much me asking people for advice. There was some of that going on. I mean, I have some friends who are just incredible naturals. And there was 4 or 5 of them in particular that I learned from over the year. One guy was a club promoter. Another guy was an actor. I mean, these guys were serious naturals.
Right.
So I didn't kind of try to say, hey man, come help me out and, tell me what you do, because, if you come to these kinds of guys with your hand out, I don't think they really want to help you that much, even if you're friends with them, and I think that's part of the reason why some people get bad advice, because there's just no true intention of helping. So what I would do is I was kind of like, hey, I'm going out to meet girls today. Do you want to come? And we would just go together. And, I was out by myself more often than not, but occasionally one of these guys would come with me and they would just watch what I was doing and they would say, all right, check this out, try this. And we would just try different things. And there was some things that didn't work, but there was a lot of things that did. And just by going every day, you have a chance to sort through what's the good advice, what's the bad advice, what's working, what's not. I mean, one of the first guys I learned from, he routinely did 20 approaches a day, just as part of his normal life. He didn't think it was anything unusual or anything that, he didn't have to make it a point. Just him being his normal self meant approaching 20 women every day.
Right.
So he was one of my role models, and it made me feel like it was normal for me to be approaching a ton of women every day. And that was really helpful for me in the beginning, because the first, month or maybe even 2 months was just intensely frightening, just scary as all hell for me to be doing these approaches. And keep in mind, I have no openers, no books, flying by the seat of my pants, Right.
And then what was the next step, or what was that, what did you start to learn?
Well, I'd say after the first month, a lot of the fear started to go away. And that's really the gateway for getting good at this, because once your fears start to go away, then you can show a little bit of your true personality, and you can show who you are a little bit. So I started to be able to get phone numbers, and I would have the same opening line that I would use every time. I mean, even without the seduction community, I was sort of developing what we would call a routine stack now, So I was starting to have good material. I was using the same things all the time. I was getting numbers. I couldn't get any of the girls to pick up the phone, but I could get numbers, which I felt, I felt like I was making progress. Then I got to the point where they would pick up the phone, but they wouldn't come meet me, and a month after that, they would show up to dates, but I wasn't getting laid. I was doing kind of those disaster dinner dates, kind of like you talked about.
Right.
But after a while, I'd say every month there would be a new piece of it that came together for me, until by the end of about 8 months of approaching 7 days in a row, I had gotten really good at it. I mean, I just had, like I was saying, I had a really intense work ethic. I was angry about all the years I spent missing out, and I think some of that anger like fueled my will to go out every day. I was also having a great time doing it. By the end of 8 months, I mean, I could approach any girl. I could get them laughing. I could get their number. I wasn't getting laid that much, but I was getting laid like here and there.
Right. Just by kind of working the odds and having enough women calling you and stuff.
Yeah, and I had some killer routines at that time. I mean, going out 7 days a week, you will come up with some fantastic stuff, no matter who you are, you know.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, if you would have just seen me approach that time, I mean, I had gotten laid, I don't know, maybe 5 times at that point with new girls since I started learning. But if you were to just watch my approach skills, cold approaching, and to an average guy off the street, it was very impressive. So actually right around that time, I actually lost my job, and my friends had been saying, this is amazing how you could go up to these girls in bars, you know, you should show people how to do it. And, you know, being that my background was I had a psychology degree, and a philosophy degree from college. And while I was in college, I had met some motivational speakers, and I had been reading self-help literature for years. So I started an informal self-help group for men who weren't succeeding with women. And what we used to do is there was a pizza shop in Manhattan where they weren't really using their upstairs dining room.
Right.
So I said to the guy that owned it, hey, let me use your upstairs dining room. Let me shut it down and have my people in. I'll buy 2 pizzas. I'll buy like some beers from you, and we'll call it even. And he said, sure. You know, he wasn't using it. So guys would come in, they would drink some beers and eat some pizza, and I would kind of talk off the top of my head about how to approach women and get numbers and things like that. And I did that for about 3 months.
And now, was this before you found MASF or after?
This was long before.
It was long before you found the community. Very cool. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had a teaching background because I'd been a social worker and all this. So my teaching skill was already very good. My approaching skill was already very good. And I had a lot of empathy for my students because I had been such a dork, and these guys were just coming in as a dork.
What made you want to go teach it rather than learn it more, you know, versus teaching it at that point?
Well, I mean, I was unemployed.
Right, right.
And I knew I had a lot to offer. I had been helping, you know, kids and mentally disabled people for years, and I knew I could help people. But actually 3 months in, you know, at that point, I think I was back in New York, so I wasn't traveling. So I had a rotation of, I think, 4 girls that I was, you know, dating on the regular. So it wasn't like I didn't know what I was doing, you know.
I was thinking less that what made you try to teach it before you had, you know, some certain degree of skill, more than like actually the thought of teaching it. Because I'm sure, you know, there are probably things that I'm good at, you know, surfing or something that I'd still teach my friends, and they get hooked that even if I was broke, I wouldn't actually think of. For some reason, I just wouldn't think of teaching, and then actually dating, obviously, is such an unlikely thing to teach, or at least it was back then.
Yeah,
that was a strange idea to occur to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very experimental person. I've had a lot of different experiments that I've tried when I was, you know, unemployed. I was a street musician for a while. You know, I've done a lot of different goofy things in my day, and my brother actually encouraged me to teach it. And who knows, maybe he knew people were teaching it already out there, but, you know, I was really...
Or maybe he thought no one was, and he thought that would be the shit if you taught it.
Yeah. I mean, me and my brother just used to kind of sit around and come up with weird ideas, and we'd go try them out. So this was just another wacky idea to me, is all it was. And it was 1 day a week, and if 5 guys showed up at $40 a head, I would have $200, which was really big to me at the time, and you know, I could actually get by and while I was looking for a job. So about 3 months later, I kind of, you know, a lot of the students wanted to learn to have one-night stands. And I had gotten a few by that point, but I wasn't truly efficient at it yet to the point where I could kind of do it anytime I wanted. So I actually stopped teaching for 3 months and just worked on, you know, methodologies for how to get one-night stands, because I don't think I was shortchanging the students, but I just wanted to have a real true method of how to do that. I just felt a lot of people were interested in it. And by that point, there were starting to be some people who came into the class who were from the seduction community.
Right.
So I went back to teaching, and in the 3 months I had taken off, the word of mouth had really spread. So I had a larger class than I expected when I came back, and it was getting really popular. A lot of people were getting laid. A lot of people were getting girlfriends. So when I came back, I guess word had spread to the seduction community, and these guys from the seduction community started to come in and ask me questions. I remember the first time it happened, it really threw me off. I was teaching my normal thing, and this guy raised his hand, and he said, "Hey, Brad, I'm having a little trouble with A3." And I was like, you having, is that like you having trouble with your car? Is that like a new Mercedes?
Right.
So I didn't know what he meant, and I had to tell him, I was like, I don't know, let me go home and look it up, and I'll see what I can find, So I talked to him after class, and him and his friend, they were IT guys, and they just had all this lingo, and they were like, you need to go and check out fastseduction.com and MASF, and, I went home, I took a quick look at it, and I was like, nah, I don't think I'm going to bother with this. It really looks complicated. These guys are students. They shouldn't be telling me what to read. It's a little ridiculous. So went back to the class, kept doing my thing, but just more and more people were kind of like demanding that I explain seduction community material to them, which I wasn't familiar with. And it actually reached a point, probably in like early 2006, where more than half of my class was seduction community guys. And they had all read the game. And they said, Brad, you have to read the game. You have to read it. And I was a little thick. I was like, what is this book? What are you talking about? I'm really not into reading books. Like, why don't we just go like meet some girls and you can learn that way? And they were like, nope, you have to read the game. You have to read. So at this point, these guys were just, I was like, okay, I'll read the game, guys. Like, calm down.
Right.
Your minions, Neil.
Yes. And but before that, you are now, just to back up a little bit, before the game, you're already posting online, if I remember correctly.
Right, I was posting online.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was they were kind of both at the same time. Both of these things were going on. So
maybe they were. Maybe it was later than I thought, which is probably why we didn't interact. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started posting before I read the game, because one of the students had given me, I think it was some of David D'Angelo's interview CDs. Mm-hmm. So, but I was a very casual poster at first. I mean, I was just posting like, hey, I went out and I got laid. This is what I did. I was actually trying to learn the terminology and the acronyms at that point because the students wanted it, and I had to teach them. They had such a serious interest, and this was a different breed of student, in my opinion. The normal guys I had coming in that were not community guys were, they wanted to learn, but I mean, the community guys, it was almost like a religion. They were just so intense. So I wanted to be able to deliver to those guys. I wanted to be able to give them what they want. So I went on and I learned it all, and I tried to like really rephrase what I was teaching and include the things that the seduction community talked about as much as I could.
Right.
So, I mean, at the time I was really in awe of the seduction community. I remember thinking to myself, all right, I'm going to post my little field report, but I know all these guys are better than me. So, I just hope they don't make fun of me too much,
Right. And now,
I mean,
and go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they just knew so much more than me, I felt like. Even some of my students who were from the community, I felt like they knew like 10 times more than me. They had read the Mystery Method, and they had read the game, and, in the beginning I was a little intimidated by that. I remember when I first started to run in-field stuff, which was later. I wasn't running in-field stuff in the beginning. I remember saying, wow, I have to get like every girl's number, and I have to like make out with lots of girls, or else these guys are going to just like say I'm not the real deal. And I just was putting a lot of pressure on myself in the beginning,
Right. And I was going to add, and I'd love it if you can add, I'm very curious, because the other thing I saw when you came on, and you can tell if this is right or not, is I felt like, that it was funny because I didn't know you had a business at the time, but I definitely felt that there was also like some degree, there's probably some degree of seeing this as an and you can say if it's true or not. It doesn't matter either way. I think it's very valid if it is, and would be surprised if it wasn't. But there was like some degree of also like finding, it was also like a new source for sort of marketing what you were doing. Even though you weren't really marketing there, you were just posting great field reports, as I recall. But I felt like there was some like, subtext of sort of like finding students, clients, kinds of things.
In the beginning, I wasn't really aware that people would come just from reading field reports.
Right.
I knew that the seduction community was a source of business because they were already there. They had found me.
Right.
But I didn't know that it would be ASF where it actually came from. In New York, there was actually some layers that were inviting me in and inviting me to post. So I thought I was going to get business from these layers. So I thought that was really cool. But ASF was more of just like I didn't think I'd get business because I thought everybody was better than me on there.
Right. I think the difference is, and this is maybe why I thought that, but I think the difference is most people came in and you saw them grow. You saw myself. Right. So you saw, even though Mystery already came in, strong, you saw him grow and learn and struggle and ask questions. You saw this happened to Tyler Durden to
right.
Papa to, you name it. You saw almost all these people come in at a certain point and then get to another point. But you kind of came in with the field reports. As far as I recall, like you didn't ask a lot of like kind of help questions. It was just, this is my life and this is what I'm doing. So it almost, so that's probably where I got that impression because you came in a different way than. Yeah,
I mean, I had been at it a year and a half at that point already,
Right.
And I had been teaching for, 6 or 8 months already at that point. So it was a different thing to me. I mean, I eventually figured it out that like, oh, cool, people will actually pay attention and give me business, and maybe I'm as good as the rest of the people on here, and I started to realize that. But there was also something going on in the beginning where some people just didn't believe me. They thought I was making it up.
Right.
Which I don't know if you could tell because you probably weren't reading every field report I put, but some people were just like, nah, this guy's making this stuff up. It's ridiculous. This doesn't happen, So I spoke with.
Because I think because they just came out of the blue.
Yeah, exactly. Which,
And it was a time when businesses were starting, so people were probably like, paranoid of, people, trying to start business and get followings and things like that. So I think. Yeah,
I guess so. I mean, I did have my URL even in those very early posts. I had a website already. I had the business going. But I sort of looked at it as, if the seduction community wants to come study from me, great. But if they don't, then that's fine because I had a business that was thriving before I even knew what the seduction community was. So if they want to come, fine, because I'll teach anyone who wants to learn. But if they don't want to come, I can make it without them. I was just fine before them. I'll be just fine after them,
Right. Cool. So let's get on to tactics, techniques, ideas, things you figured out. I have in front of me an awesome list of things from that email that I've never heard of before, so I'm kind of excited as well.
Oh, cool.
So and let's start. I noticed that every call in the questions, there are a lot of advanced and really good questions, but every time, no matter what, there are always some guys who have the problems opening, and it never goes away for anyone.
Yeah.
And we all feel that. So let's talk about.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about the community. We can help those early guys, and that's one of the things that was so amazing to me in the beginning. People helping each other. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I do think half the battle is the opener because any guy at any age, at some point is scared to talk to a woman, no matter how famous or successful or good looking that person may be usually.
Absolutely true, Neil.
So tell me about your style of opening, your thoughts on opening.
Yeah, sure. What I kind of do is the way I learned to open is in the beginning for the first few months I only had one opener, and it wasn't even a very good opener. I would go up to girls and I would say, hey, I'm not from here. Do you know any place where I can get cotton candy around here this time of night? And and the girls, it was just kind of a wacky thing to say that would catch their attention. And what I did was, since I had delivered it so many times, I just developed really good follow-up material for it, which I call contingencies. So some of the girls would say, you know, if they would take me really seriously, they'd be like, yeah, you can go to Walmart. It's like off of I-5 and they have cotton candy. Then I would kind of say, you know, I'm kidding, right? You know, and
that Walmart.
Kind of, yeah. So that was how I kind of started, but it wasn't a very good opener. So I wanted to create something, you know, like you said, the opener is really important. So I wanted to come up with something that would do everything for me right in the opener. And I had goals for my opener. I wanted the girl laughing. I wanted to be touching the girl. And I wanted to figure out if the girl had a good sense of humor or not, and if she was a sexual kind of girl. And if she wasn't, I wanted her to show her true colors right away so that I can move on as quickly as possible. Because the way I approach pickup, it's not about being able to get every single girl. What it is about is it's about finding the girls who are the most compatible with you as quickly as possible and not wasting your time in those like 20-minute go nowhere sets.
I think that's a great philosophy. I mean, I remember when I got really good at this, I always felt like I had to do a warm-up set. But, you know, Mr. Hester noticed, like, we do a warm-up set, and we get, like, stuck on our warm-up set and end up taking our warm-up set home. And we're like, that was supposed to be our fucking warm-up set, like, with the stuff. You know what I mean? So I think that's a great point. A lot of people don't talk about that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I came to that conclusion is because, like, I think a lot of people, when they start learning, they say, I want to be able to get any girl I want, or I want to be able to pick up every single girl, you know, and when you start getting good, I mean, it's almost like you can do that. I mean, I reached a point where I would be taking so many phone numbers. For example, I have like 25 phone numbers on my desk by Monday morning, you know, and I would stare at the pile and I would be like, you know what? I don't even want to deal with this. It's like job interviews. It was a weird thing because I know what you're saying. At first, I would like collect every phone number and I methodically put it in my phone book. And, you know, write some details down about them and you know, and put them in a category and all that. And then by the end, it was like I'd come home and I'd pocket my phone number. Some were like beautiful girls, some were girls I connected with. Right. And I would just be like, I just put them on this little shelf I have. And they just sit there and then I wouldn't use them and I forget who they were. And it was like, that's what hot girls do. Yeah, you know? Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and then when I got good at one-night stands, there would be like 2 and 3 girls that wanted to go home with me, and one night, and I would, you know, it was just a hard decision. I mean, it probably sounds like a really cool problem to have, but it's actually a little awkward. So, you know, I remember looking at a pile of phone numbers one day and saying to myself, if someone would just tell me which one of those girls would be the most fun to hang out with and would be the most compatible with me, I would trade the rest of them away to just know which one that is.
Okay.
And I started to try to just, you know, build my game to just force girls to show whether they're compatible with me or not. Because, you know, what this is essentially about to me is you develop yourself as much as possible into an amazing man. And then you spend time around women who are just naturally compatible about that. So if you become an amazing guy, you're going to be naturally compatible with amazing women. And that's how I kind of looked at it. So I developed a style of opener to just kind of weed out the girls and just have a really good time in the process. So my favorite opener ever that I came up with is called Horse Girl Opener. Mm-hmm. And I think it just does a lot of these things at the same time. And it's a blast. It's really fun to do it. So, you know, your guys can totally use this. It's super fun to do, and I'll explain the opener and how it works.
Okay.
All right, so here's how the opener starts. You would say to the girl, you kind of point to her, you know, kind of look at her like, don't I know you're from somewhere? You know, you wouldn't say that. You would just have that look on your face. And you would say, do you like horses? And she'd say, yes, no, maybe. Doesn't really matter. You would say, all right, check this out. When I was in 6th grade, there was this girl, and she loved horses. She loved them more than anything. And she used to draw horses on her binder, and she would run around the classroom making horse noises, and we used to call her the weird horse girl. and you look just like her. So most of the time, you know, you'll get a laugh out of that. And it does filter some girls out. Girls who don't have a sense of humor won't get the joke. They'll blow you out, which is fine. I prefer to be blown out rather than stand there for 20 minutes with a girl who has no sense of humor.
Right.
So from there, as I was saying, I built contingencies because I delivered this so many times. So typically they say, "Oh, I'm not the weird horse girl, you know, where'd you go to school?" or something like that.
Right.
And I would say, you know, I can't tell if you're definitely her because you might just be, you know, acting shy with me, you know, not wanting to admit it. Just in case you're her, I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry, like for all the times I made fun of you. Because back in school, I was the bully and I was the cool kid, and I used to make fun of a weird horse girl. And now, I'm trying to be nicer to people and not make fun of people anymore. So I promised myself that if I ever saw you, I would totally say, "I'm sorry. Can you ever forgive me?" So at that point, the girl will be usually role playing. She'll be like,
And now,
"Yeah."
are you kind of tongue in cheek while doing this?
Oh yeah, totally. They know it's a joke. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they know it's a joke. I mean, it's over dramatic. It's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I made fun of you so much," you know.
Right.
So the girls will role play along with it, and they'll play the part of the nerdy girl, you know, and they're like, "Well, I guess I can forgive you," and we'll like hug and, you know, have this big reunion, and it's all just a role playing thing at that point. So the friends will watch this all go down, and I'll kind of address a lot of parts of the story to the friends as I'm doing it, if there's a lot of her friends there, and so it kind of keeps them interested and keeps them from just dragging the girl off. I mean, it's a pretty outlandish story,
right.
So they usually stay pretty interested in it. So
right.
If I could pick the opener apart a little bit for you, both structurally and just in terms of, you know, emotionally as well. The whole point of the opener is, you know, you want to use the right structure. So it starts with what I call a hook question. Do you like horses? Not a lot of girls will walk away from that because, for some strange reason, a lot of girls really like horses. I don't know why. They just do. It's kind of like you and Mystery have, "Hey, can I get a female opinion on something?" That's an amazing hook question. Most girls can't walk away from it.
Right.
So, okay, do you like horses? Hook question. And then you're going to get into some storytelling. But it's not just any story. This is a story where it's very rich in social information. When I was in school, there was this girl. She loved horses. We used to make fun of her. Okay, in that story, there's a social hierarchy. There's one girl who's nerdy. There's other people who are cool. There's people who make fun of each other. So that kind of a story that's rich in social information is something that keeps women intrigued. So the story builds in drama and it builds in tension, and this is where a lot of the comedic effect comes from. It comes from the tension of the story. I look at the girls when I tell the story, and I can tell they're thinking, "Why are you telling me this?"
Right.
Which is great because it just kind of sets them up for the punchline. That's the tension of it. So the punchline would be, "And you look just like her." So that kind of relieves all the tension, and, you know, it kind of puts the girl in like this frame of mind where she's the nerdy girl. And I mean, even hot girls have been nerdy at some point in their life. Maybe it hasn't been since the third grade, but almost every girl has had that time when she feels
exactly.
like...
If they haven't been nerdy, they felt nerdy, like they were the nerds. They all felt it in school.
Right, even if it wasn't true at all, you know.
Right. There was some point where some other girls ganged up on them, and they felt like the outcast, for sure.
Exactly. So it kind of, I mean, when you have these girls who are hot and they're in the club and they feel like they're the coolest one in there, just to kind of hear this kind of thing at least makes them a little easier to talk to, because then they don't feel like they're so much cooler than you that, you know, it's going to hurt their cred just to, you know, be standing near you.
Right.
So in terms of value calibration, you know, you're going up to the girl, and this kind of thing is bringing her value down a little bit, okay? Not too much, but a little bit. And then when you do the contingency and you're like, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry," then your value goes up a little bit. And then when you tell her, you know, "I want to say I'm sorry," and then you give her a hug, it brings her value up. So in the role-playing world, it's sort of like you've come in with higher value than her, and then you've equalized that value, which makes her feel like she's one of the cool kids, and that she kind of got that from you. Now, keep in mind, this is all subconscious. The girl's not taking it that seriously. She knows it's a joke. But on that subconscious level and in that role-playing game, she feels like she just kind of won you over and got these cool points and this cred from this cool guy. And it's a really fun kind of, I mean, it is a pretty goofy opener, but it's really fun, and it does a lot of things at the same time, because it deals with issues of social value. It gives you a story to tell, and it does weed out girls who are not going to be fun for you. If a girl gets mad at you over the horse girl line, she's way too uptight, and you want to run out of there as fast as you possibly can. There's a lot of girls out there who you shouldn't be dealing with, because there's girls out there who are on psychiatric medication. There's girls who have intimacy issues. There's all these things. So all of that kind of stuff, I want to get away from those girls as quickly as I can, and move on to some girls that are going to be really fun for me. Because in the big picture, when I go out, I think it's all about me having fun, first and foremost. Whether I pick up a girl or I don't, or whether the girls like me or they hate me, as long as I'm having fun, then everything is okay. And that's how I've always looked at it.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I think it's a good plan. Do you have like a little tagline at the end for like the end of the routine after you end the role play? Because obviously, I think one of the dangers is this. Right. So it'll be a hug, and that'll be the end, and you'll cut.
Yeah, or I'll say, I made that whole thing up, or something like that. One of my natural friends who I learned from had a similar opener. We call it the Heather Henderson opener, and it was a very rapid fire opener. He would kind of run by and do it drive-by style. He would grab the girl and say, "Oh my God, do you guys know this girl? This is Heather Henderson. We went to the junior prom together. We got really drunk. We threw up on each other. She took really good care of me. We went to the beach. She cleaned puke off me. Then we ended up going out, and we were going out for like 2 months, and I totally fucked her best friend. And Heather Henderson stayed friends with me, even though, so she's like the coolest girl ever. Thank you, Heather Henderson, for still being friends with me." And then we kind of walk off from there.
Right. That's cute. And again, I really think it's about showing contrasting sides of yourself, so that if you look like an asshole and you have an opener that shows you're an asshole, then you're just an asshole. If you look like a nice guy and you have kind of an asshole, high social value opener, that's great. If you look like, like big giant guys who come across like teddy bears, they're lovable. Little tiny meat guys who come across like teddy bears are like wimps. So, it's about showing contrasting sides of yourself. Some people, I can also get away with like talking about, disgusting sexual things within 5 minutes, because they don't, after using an opener like that, because, there's something slightly safer and under the radar about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I think what's important is guys always showing contrasting sides of themselves.
I definitely agree. I actually had to change a lot of parts of the horse girl when I got good at pickup, just for that reason. Because when I got good, my body language got good. I had cool clothes. I looked like a player or something. So I had to do horse girl like, hey, do you like horses? Okay, this is really embarrassing, and I can't believe I'm telling you this, but in 6th grade there was this girl, and she loved horses, and oh my God, is this a boring story? I'm so boring. But anyway, she drew horses on her binder, and I would have to use all those kinds of things to calibrate it down,
Yeah, exactly. Because, as guys know, most of the game exists to raise your social value up to that of a beautiful woman in a club, because almost no matter who you are, it's always going to be lower. But once your social value starts raising, a lot of
you have to bring it down.
You can throw away, exactly. Like calling, if you're the guy with the highest social value and you're calling a girl weird horse girl, she might just think you're an asshole. So you kind of have to, calibrate. If you're, the guy, just a regular guy in the club, it's okay. So that's the thing about these routines and things, is you're calibrating for what your social value is in the room. So let's go into a couple other things. What is the shocker, man?
The shocker is the horse girl opener. That is the shocker. That is it. Because I have like 5 different openers that all have that same structure, and we call it the shocker.
Right, and the shock is the general kind of twist of, and you look just like her kind of thing?
Exactly.
Great. And like, let's see, we'll open up for questions in about 20 minutes, I suppose. Do you want to talk about the 10-minute seduction technique, or?
Yeah, sure. Whatever you guys want to know about, I'm willing to talk about.
You know, everyone wants to hear that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna tell you, dude. But you got to be careful. The rivals are gonna come out with a 9-minute seduction routine and do your shit. I just thought there's something about Mary again. So.
Oh man. So when I had taken that break from teaching and I was working on my same day lay game, I learned from this guy, and all my friends used to call him the pheromone kid. And we call him the pheromone kid because nobody knew what he was doing, but he would walk up to girls, he would smile, and he would chat for 5 minutes, and then they'd be walking away, and they would go into the bathroom and get naked. And he was having sex in public bathrooms, like, all the time. I mean, he was a real pervy guy, so he was definitely into that, you know, even more than regular sex. But nobody knew what he was doing, so we used to all try to rub our head in his armpit and get the pheromones on us and go give it a try, you know. But I actually took, you know, a month or two to just kind of dissect what he was doing, and I learned it, and it's really a pretty bizarre technique, and I don't recommend it.
Do you tell girls the pheromone kid story minus this part?
No, actually, I never have.
Okay, interesting, because I think it almost sounded like a cute routine at the beginning about the pheromone kid and try to get you anyway. It sounded like a cute routine.
Oh yeah, it probably could work. So I kind of like watched him do it, and I would ask him about it, and you know, very gently, because you have to handle these naturals a little gently. And this is what I found out. This is what he's actually doing. And I stress that this is not for everyone. And make sure you already are pretty good before you try this, because it's not for newbies. But here's how it works. He would go up to the girl and he would say, hey, how you doing? You know, my name's Brad. I just wanted to come over and say hi. And, you know, before he even did this, he would have warmed the approach with eye contact. And there's a whole method to that as well, but I'm just going to stick to the more scripted part of it. So he would, you know, say, yeah, I've been kind of hanging around the bar tonight, and I got a long drive at the end of the night, and, you know, I just wanted to kind of meet a couple people before I headed out. And the girl would, you know, chit-chat or whatever. So once he was, you know, he would do certain things with his eyes to kind of let the girl know that he was sexually interested. He would look them up and down and things like that and try to develop a sexual vibe, you know, in a nonverbal way. And once he felt like he had that, which was usually very quickly, he would say, hey, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but you wouldn't happen to know where there's an adult video store around here that's open this time of night? And the girl would say yes or no. And if the girl looked at him like he was a perv, and this kind of question was out of line, right, he would just leave and start over. He'd be like, thanks anyway, I got to run, but goodbye, you know, nice meeting you. But a lot of times the girls would get interested. And the whole theory behind this is essentially that, you know, every girl has certain dirty fantasies about meeting a stranger and doing something that she's not allowed to do. Even the nicest girls who look like librarians, you know, probably have some sexual fantasy about getting fucked by a stranger behind a dumpster, for example, you know.
Right.
So the pheromone kid's a real big believer in this, and he tries to become every girl's dirty fantasy is essentially what he does.
It's funny. I mean, that's similar to what my natural friend, Dustin did. Oh,
really?
In the sense that when I finally had him break down a little bit about it, he was like he said he was more of a blank canvas they can project their fantasy onto. So it's similarities. Interesting. So so go ahead.
It's a lot about just believing that women have this fantasy. I mean, that's the first step to learning this kind of a technique.
Right.
So the next part is if the girl says she knows where it is, he would say, cool, thank you so much, because, you know, like I said, I got a long drive at the end of the night, and I just needed to, like, kind of blow off some steam. Like, I'm feeling a lot of built-up tension, and I think I might have to go down there and take care of myself.
Right.
So now he's kind of implying that he's about to go masturbate, you know, in a jerk-off booth, you know, in some shady part of town.
Right.
So if the girl is that kind of dirty fantasy girl, this is going to bring that part of her out. And again, if she looks at him like this is out of line, he's gone immediately. But more often than not, they find it interesting because he's not. He's so respectful when he's doing it, and he kind of seems like a totally nice guy. He doesn't seem judgmental, like sexually judgmental at all.
Right.
So then he's going to kind of go for the full Monty. He'll say to the girl, you know what, you are an awesome chick, and I really got to get out of here soon, but I'm actually going to run into the bathroom right now, and I'm probably just going to take care of myself right now. If you want, you could totally come along and just watch and just kind of hang out with me while I do it. It might be fun. You don't have to do anything, you don't want to do, but it'll only take 3 minutes, and then we'll be out of there, and nobody will even know. So surprisingly, a lot of the girls will be like, okay, and they will just go into the bathroom with him under the with the idea of just watching him masturbate.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I really can see that working because I can see a girl be like, that's kind of cool, that's sex, that makes the night fun, and hey, I'm not involved, so it's safe.
Right, I don't have to do anything, and it's all going to be over in 3 minutes. A really crucial part of this is that this whole thing is going down in 5 to 10 minutes, and her friends are not even going to realize that she's gone. What he does is he warms the approach with eye contact, and he waits for the girl to break off from her group.
Right.
So Pheromone Kid, he taught me that if a girl breaks off from her group, she's either going to the bar to get a drink or she's going to the bathroom. Right. And what you want to do is you want to position yourself so that when she gets there, she almost feels like she's approaching you and she's already had eye contact with you. So it's not about, dealing with her friends at all. You never see them. They never see you. Words are never spoken between you and the friend.
Right.
So, if the girl comes into the bathroom with him, then obviously it's already a very sexual situation, and a lot of girls will be very turned on by watching a guy masturbate. I mean, if your students, some of them might be new to this, and they might think that this is outlandish and girls don't get off on watching that. But, I'd say the majority of girls do, especially in this situation where she meets the guy and 5 minutes later this is going on. It's very exhilarating. It's the kind of thing that, women write letters to Cosmo about stuff like this. So once he's in there, then he can, obviously do some things to get the girls a little more involved. And the Pheromone Kid taught me, it's very important to be respectful during this time. And you always ask, you never push too much. And you would say stuff like that's hinting to increase participation. Like first you want to make the girl feel sexy. So you'd say to the girl, wow, you look so amazing. This is really like making it so much more exciting just having you here. So that makes her feel so sexy. And for a girl to feel sexy, then she starts feeling horny.
Right. And
then they would hint like, oh my God, your tits look great, and this is just a compliment, but it's hinting that she should take her tits out,
Right.
So a lot of times they follow the lead on that. And then there's like some of the stuff is a little more direct. Like he'll say, hey, I'm having a great time. This is great. I'm kind of like a wet guy. I don't know if you have like maybe some spit. So he'll try to get the girl to either like, rub on some spit or like spit in his hand. Is this a little too dirty for your call, Neil? Is this cool?
Yeah, it's fine. Go on. It's fine. To me, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
To me, like dirty's okay. Anything that's sort of like disrespecting women or something is not okay. So that's fine with me.
Okay, yeah, and like I said, it is very respectful. Pheromone could always.
No. I mean, she's someone. It's always having choice. But don't worry about it. Go ahead. You're fine. I'll speak on it's not.
Okay,
so
cool.
Says I'm kind of a wet guy.
Right, I'm kind of a wet guy. If you got some spit, maybe that would be really cool to help me out. Sometimes the girl will spit in his hand. Sometimes she'll just take that as an invitation to start giving head.
Right.
And different women have different levels of participation with this.
Right.
Some just want to watch. Some want to go all the way.
Right.
But either way, it's like a win-win situation.
Right.
So this is this kind of thing is, you know, I watched him approach girls in this manner for a few weeks, and I asked him a lot of questions about it, and then I actually went and tried it, and I was so surprised because it worked for me on the first try.
Amazing.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe it. You know, and I played it real nonchalant. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go take care of myself in the bathroom. You want to come watch? And the girl was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, what? And then I was like, oh, yeah, cool, yeah, no big deal, come on in, you know.
Yeah. No, it's funny. It's funny, you know. I talk about David Varlock just because we talk a lot about, you know, girls, and you know, in the last couple of years since this TV show is on, he's very quick too. It's like he'll quickly screen a girl, and within a few minutes she's going to invite her into the bathroom. If she comes in, great. If not, he moves on. So it's funny how many similarities this has between other sort of naturals. Now, the question I have is, I'm walking this in my mind, and the one place where it's okay, what do you do? Okay, let's just say your first time, you got this girl, you're going back to the bathroom, you go in the stall, you lock it, and what do you fucking pull out your pants and start whacking it? What the hell did you do?
Yeah, pretty much. You kind of just like look the girl in the eye. Like at that point, the girl's like, is this really going to happen? And you just like whip it out and start whacking it, you know? You just got to go for it. You got to jump right in.
Are you standing? Are you sitting down?
Yeah, you just stand. You just, like, usually what happens is the girl will kind of stand like in the corner of the stall. So she's like furthest from the toilet. And you'll be standing like, you know, like the toilet might be like 6 inches from you. And she'll like kind of stand there in the corner. Girls almost have like, some of them put on like this almost like they have this cornered animal look in their eye, you know?
Right.
And they'll kind of stand there, and you just start looking them up and down and whacking it. And like a lot of times the girls jump in and really want to do a lot more with it.
I think if you're right, if you're not into it, then you're just not in the bathroom. If you're into it and it's a sexual fantasy, you're there, and to have a guy who just met kind of like doing that with you, I can see that. Like, you've screened them before they've come to the bathroom a lot.
Right. And like I said,
any freaked out by it has already moved on.
Exactly. And there's so many spots where the girl can say no and you would just leave quickly. It's not the kind of method that involves persistence. There's no persistence in this. If you see any doubts when you ask about the video store, you're gone.
Right.
You know, and it really doesn't take long to do it. So you know, the cool thing about this technique is like, here, you know, the Pheromone Kid, I did an interview with him. I interviewed a lot of my mentors, the naturals, and I tried to put these out to the community because, you know, I think it's just really important to get good information out. When you have it, you know, if you have access to these guys, you gotta spread the wealth. So, you know, my experience with it was that, after the first 2 or 3 times, I was kind of like, all right, this is cool. I don't know. I'm a little weird with bathroom sex at this point. I'm like, it's cool once in a while, but it's not something I would want to do every day. I'm like, am I jerking off in a bathroom stall again? Like, what is my life? You know, what is my life becoming? You know?
and exactly.
What is my life turning into? But what I found is, in the big picture, I kind of use it as as just a facet to my game. I mean, Pheromone Kid, sometimes that's his whole game. But I'll be like an hour or two in with a girl, and it's starting to get very sexual, and then I'll go to this.
Right.
Or
it's interesting. I almost see what that's like. There's a pattern here, which is, you know, I need to relieve myself. You know, I can't believe I'm fucking confessing this to you, but I'm a guy, and this is how it works. And then why don't we share this experience together? There's like a pattern. You can do that at any time, or you just see a girl's interested, or it's on, or whatever it is. Yeah, I can see it happening at various points.
Yeah, it becomes almost like a mid-game or an end-game piece if you want to multi-purpose it, you know.
Right.
The other thing that it does is it gives you like a different vibe, like you know when you just look a girl in the eye and you think to yourself, you know what? I met a girl like you a month ago and we were in the bathroom and, you know, having oral sex within 10 minutes. So like that's a different vibe that you put out with every girl who you look in the eye. You know, you just seem like so much more of a sexual kind of guy. And it generalizes to the rest of your game. So, a couple weeks ago.
And the other thing is, like, I'm just thinking that literally, I remember early on, there were some things I blew early on because the girls were, like, too sexual right away, and I'm like, fuck, I have a whole 9-step routine to get through. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do now.
Right.
Like when girls were very sexual right away, and in fact, they're almost too sexual for even the evolution phase shift, which is a lot of talking. They were just, like, out there up for a sexual adventure and to get laid. So having that sort of, routine early on actually would have like just cut to the chase, so it wasn't like I talked to them and they went and found some other guy or something like that. Because I remember early on, when my first time started in New York, I met this girl who would be like I know the types of girls that are the candidates for that. They've got a lot more testosterone than the other girls. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be able to, like, switch into a different kind of game, when it requires it. So. Yeah,
and that's why I think, like, the most advanced level is calibration, figuring this shit out.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Anyway, go ahead. But you were saying that after a while you were like, oh, shit, am I going to have to masturbate in the bathroom again? Go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, but it just generalized to my game to the point where now, like, if there's a girl who's out and she's looking for, like, some quick sex, she's looking at every guy in the place, they can tell that I'm the guy that you want for that, Right. Like, I was in Austin teaching a workshop 2 weeks ago, and there was a girl at the place who, she noticed me because I was talking to a lot of girls, and she noticed my clothing because I have really cool clothes, and she was out looking for some quick sex that night, and we started talking, and 5 minutes later we were walking, looking for a place to go at it, and we ended up, full clothes under a stairwell of the bar. I mean, that was 5 minutes in. So, I mean, I don't know any other ways to learn that vibe except for, like, just doing the Pheromone Kids whole routine, just kind of as practice and as an eye-opener of what's possible, Is it for everyone to, like, tell girls, come watch me jerk off in a bathroom stall? No, it's not for everyone, but it does kind of make some permanent, intangible change to your game, and I think that's really what I got out of it more than anything else.
Right, and guys, for guys who listen to this, obviously, like Brad said, it's not for everybody. If you're already kind of not comfortable in the club or not doing well in the club, I wouldn't go ahead and do this. You do have to, like, on some level, convey some sexuality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's where it's at. I mean, the way the Pheromone Kid explains it is a bit more in depth. I mean, he goes into the inner game mindset of it and talks about game in general and body positioning and eye contact. And I have his interview. If anybody wants to get in touch with me to get the Pheromone Kid interview, it's not hard to find me.